Do you love coral and fascinating underwater worlds? Then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Echo Africa, the environment show co-produced by NTV in Uganda, Channels TV in Nigeria, and DW in Germany. I am Chris Elems, and with me today, as always, is my co-host, Sandra Twinobio. Hi, Sandra, and how are you today?
Very well, Chris. Thank you. And a big hello to all of you, our viewers out there. Coral is not the only thing we'll be talking about today. Let's take a quick look at what else we have coming up. We'll visit a company upcycling waste wood into stylish furniture. We will learn how an entire region is fighting over a national park. And we'll hear how reforestation could bring a Tanzanian island back to life. Corals are vivid and colorful when they are healthy, but these small marine animals that live together in compact colonies are not only beautiful to look at, they play an extremely important role in the marine ecosystem. Some fish spawn in coral reefs, and it is also where they find food. Now, scientists on the coast of Kenya are taking a closer look at the different ways these marine creatures coexist.
The reef looks degraded, but at least there are still fishes here. Joanne Kawaka and her colleague Peter Musembi visit the Msambweni coral reef every 2 years to check up on this fragile ecosystem. The coral reef is a fascinating object of study for the two marine biologists.
That is where the life of the ocean lies, okay? So that is where you find the breeding areas for different marine life, okay? A lot of the feeding areas for the different marine life and most of the biodiversity. So these are areas that have to be protected. So if they are misused, then the life in that ocean is gone.
Our recent research concluded that we have up to 4-fold decline in fish catches in the last 2-3 decades. And that is a problem.
As local fishermen know all too well, Umaya Hassan was born and bred in Msambweni. Fishing has been his main source of income for years.
The catch was still good when I started, but over the past 4 years, the number of fish has been declining.
The Kenyan coast is lined with 620 square kilometers of coral reefs, an area only slightly smaller than the capital, Nairobi. Msambweni is taking part in a project overseen by the research organization Cordio, which monitors coral bleaching and mortality. The causes of coral reef degradation are all man-made, such as rising water temperatures.
The major threat to coral reef ecosystems is climate change. We are also seeing trouble that is coming as a result of massive developments that is ongoing. And then there are also the issues of pollution. Another threat that is coming from usage by the communities. Of course, there is overfishing.
The marine biologists have enlisted the support of locals in their efforts to protect the coral reefs. They've taught fishermen how to count fish stocks and species in marine conservation zones and how to interpret their findings. For example, high numbers of clownfish in the coral reefs is a sign that the habitat is doing well. They've also taught them a simple method of keeping juvenile fish out of their nets. The fishermen still use their traditional basket traps, but now use different mesh.
We were ensuring that the kind of mesh size that is being used is bigger, and that is 3-inch mesh sizes. And that the thinking around that is just to ensure that the kind of fish that is being captured by the basket traps are not juveniles.
Part of the reef has also been declared a conservation zone. It covers 18 hectares, an area equivalent to 25 football pitches. Fishing is prohibited there, and together the fishermen make sure the ban is respected. Umaya Hassan has been using the new kind of mesh in his traps for 2 years now.
I hope I'll be able to catch more fish in the future, and so take better care of my family and my parents. But considering the challenges we now face, I also wonder if this dream will ever come true.
The scientists estimate that it will take up to 20 years for fish stocks to recover completely, but at least Umaya's children might benefit.
Now, what Kenyan scientists are doing in the field, the Dutch scientists are trying to do in a lab. In Arnhem Zoo, marine biologists are breeding coral in a giant aquarium under optimal conditions.
Like in a theatre, tons of lighting equipment are used to put the spotlight on the corals, the real stars of the show. This research project and splashes of wondrous colour are unfolding here underwater. Bright greens, orange and yellow corals are thriving here on Europe's biggest artificial reef. Marine biologist Max Jansen and his team have created a sensation.
Here we are doing the best we can to build for corals. We're using technology, knowledge and scientific investigation to create the best habitat we can for the corals.
By feeding them, for example. To date, researchers don't even know the half of exactly how corals function. And this coral reef ecosystem at the zoo is giving many scientists hopes they can discover much more.
We can learn a lot about species with DNA testing, but it's not just about the coral itself. There are many more factors, and that makes it very, very complex.
The biologists in Arnhem are trying to gain better understanding of the corals. They want to find out how to help them survive long-term in the wild.
It's like a forest without animals. If there's no forest, then there's no forest animals. It's the same with a coral reef. If there are no corals, then you don't have the other animals either.
Reefs are the nurseries of the sea. That's why they're the main attraction of the underwater world at Burgers Zoo. The corals here grow more quickly and are healthier than in the wild.
A colony of corals is actually thousands of animals living together in a kind of enormous city inside a common skeleton. No one really understands it because everyone looks for the eyes and mouth, but you've got to explain these tiny animals with one orifice and little tentacles.
There are more than 14,000 species of corals in the world. Most of them are threatened with extinction. Nevertheless, fans still kidnap and smuggle them. Customs officials from all over Europe bring confiscated animals to Max Jansen, like this rare soft coral from Australia, which first had to go into quarantine.
It's a shame that we still receive corals taken from natural environments, because for some corals, it's not a problem, but there are other coral species that have a really tough time in nature.
Returning the painstakingly revived corals back to the sea isn't an option at the moment, because the conditions of the oceans are too poor. It could, however, eventually become possible when the water quality improves. Until then, in Arnhem, they'll keep mixing 60 ingredients to make artificial Pacific waters, and the corals will continue to fascinate visitors.
It is really amazing to be able to admire such beauty without getting wet. Our next report is also about beauty and environmental protection.
That's right, Sandra, but achieved in a completely different fashion. In Egypt, a startup has found a way of upcycling waste wood into new furniture, and the results give no indication of their often humble beginnings.
Furniture making in Egypt is expensive. The country has no wood resources. Everything has to be imported. Normally scrap wood gets thrown away, but that's changed in Sharif Al-Khalil's workshop. Together with architect Sarah El Batouti, he founded the Mubun startup. They make luxury sustainable furnishings using scrap wood.
It's very important that we upcycle and not only recycle. We reuse and refurbish the scrap wood and incorporate it into a new product. That also helps raise people's awareness. These products are made without heat treatment and without any harmful chemicals.
They've made more than 120 pieces since Mubun opened a year ago, selling them in Egypt and as far afield as Paris and London.
And how about you? If you're also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. #DoingYourBit. We share your stories.
We now go from Egypt to Europe, North Macedonia, in the Balkans to be precise. This is the location where the Iron Curtain used to divide East from West. These days, there is a green belt running along the former division. This corridor is supposed to be a nature reserve, but as our report from the Shah Mountains shows, the situation is not that simple.
Shah Planina lies near what was once the Iron Curtain. The ribbon of land and some areas nearby have been designated the European Green Belt by an association of the same name. Its mission is to protect the natural landscapes there, which had been shielded for decades from major developments such as farming and construction. The association promotes ecotourism. Renovating mountain huts and building new ones should entice more hikers to come and explore. The association also seeks to counter illegal logging, which is a serious problem here. The timber mafia has carved this track through the forest without permission. It extends for several kilometers. An SUV blocks the path. Behind it, heavy equipment. They're often armed, and it would not be wise to go any further with a camera rolling. The conservationists monitor changes in the forest with the help of an app and satellite imagery. Jovan Bozinovsky is a mountain guide and also active in Friends of Shar. He says the timber thieves sometimes fell trees and they just leave them lying around in the forest. Shepherds are natural allies of the conservationists, as they have a vital interest in preserving the forests and meadows and keeping an eye on illegal logging. The Friends of Shar platform emphasizes the importance of monitoring. Nasser Jemaili is a sheep farmer. He used to take visitors on hikes until the pandemic hit. On the terrain up here, four-wheel drive vehicles are of no use. Friends of Shar see great potential in gentle tourism. Nasser Jemaili and his brother have 5,000 sheep. The ewe's milk cheese they make is famous throughout the region. Their entire business depends on the preservation of the natural habitat.
I would totally welcome a national park in Shah Planina. That's why I support the initiative.
Nasser Jemaili and his brother inherited the farm from their parents and have since expanded its operations. They employ 25 shepherds. During the season, they spend 2 weeks at a time up in the mountains, living in huts like this. The only source of power here are small solar panels, enough to light the huts. With a new hydropower plant, that would change, a shepherd explains.
It would be good. Then our little villages would finally have electricity.
These small hydropower plants are promoted as a green energy and good for people, but in reality they destruct the ecosystem of the rivers.
The conservationists promote traditional ways of life, but most people want at least a few modern conveniences. Pandorska leads us down into a valley. This is where one of the new hydro plants is to be located. The plan is to build 11 in Shar Planina. Not everybody in the villages of Shar Planina is concerned about protecting the environment and finding an alternative to improvised rubbish dumps. Construction of the hydropower plants up in the mountains is well underway. They use so much water that downstream in the valley, the water levels in the river are getting low. Parts of the Balkans still feel very remote and left behind. But even here, there seem to be more cars. Friends of Shar has several members of its team out and about in the area, including Vojislav Gushevsky.
There's still a lot of work to be done, and that includes explaining the issues to people and telling them about the rules on how to behave in a national park.
It now looks as if the Shar Planina National Park will finally be established next year. On paper, that is. But that is at least a start.
And now back to Africa. Many people travel long distances by bike here. It's not only a cheap way of getting around, it is also really environmentally friendly. Many families are happy when they receive a bike as a gift or are able to lease one. Like in South Africa, where a small NGO is providing bikes for children.
Ezekiel Chadu starts the day with a very long walk to school. It takes almost an hour to get there. She lives in KwaZulu-Natal province in South Africa, in a village near the east coast.
I have to get early and just be ready for school so early because it's too long. The way is too really long.
There's no public transport around here. Children often arrive late at school or just don't go.
There is this problem of late coming as well as also absenteeism. That is the issue that you are having. And there is the risk of girls walking on the road to see. There is this problem of crime. You know the crime in South Africa is very high. There is that problem also.
A few kilometres away is the base of an NGO that wants to solve the transportation problem for poor local children. Nadia Erasmus, Ayanda Masangemi and Sam Wenger are part of the team of Sweet Bike. They're unloading 470 second-hand bikes recently delivered from Switzerland.
So basically when the new container arrives, it's like, I feel like a small child who's just about to open a lucky packet. It's really like, this is the change that we're bringing to the country. That's the type of feeling that I get when the container arrives. It's a very good feeling.
Sweet Bike got going last year and has already provided more than 1,900 bicycles to schools. Each one first has to be assembled and tested at the Sweet Bike workshop. The project depends on donations. Depending on how much money comes in, Sam Wenger and the team buy and import up to several containers full each year. The COVID-19 pandemic has meant delays in deliveries recently. The workshop has 5 trainee mechanics. Nadia Erasmus is in charge here. Together, they process about 40 bikes a day. Vocational training is another core element of Sweet Bike's mission.
The idea is at the end of the year to equip them with enough skills so they can either open their own workshop or be placed in a job opportunity in the field. We try and teach not only to think of it as mechanics, but also maybe selling bikes.
Some of the trainees already have plans for when they complete the course.
In future, I would like to have a shop for bicycles and sell it to rural areas because there's not much transport there, so they can use bicycles.
Sam Wenger and Ayanda Masangemi are going to visit a friend and former trainee. He lives in a village a few kilometres away. Sipamandla Sinama completed the course a year ago. He now runs a bike workshop in his house. Sweetbike gave him a starter set of tools. He thought a lot of school children would come to have their bikes looked at, but the pandemic and lockdown meant schools were closed and few actually showed up. Still, business is not bad.
I'm getting more elderly people because they are working in town. So obviously they can come here just to fix their bicycles.
The next morning, back at Sweetbike, it's time to distribute a batch of newly assembled and tested bikes. The children are excited about the bikes, especially Ezihle Chadu. For her, it had been a long wait.
First time they came here, I felt like I would get a bike, but I didn't get it. I thought maybe if they come again, I will get one. And it happened.
How do you feel?
I feel so happy.
Before the kids can set off on their bikes, they get safety training. For some, riding a bike is an entirely new experience.
Now I have my own transports. I can go wherever I want to go, and it's easy. It's as simple as that.
Balancing on two wheels takes a little practice, but Ezihle Chadu is keen to learn and would like nothing more than to cycle to school the very next day.
Keeping old traditions alive can be a way to help the environment. That's also been practiced in our next report from Zanzibar.
That is right, Chris. This group of islands in the Indian Ocean is in jeopardy as a result of climate change and the depletion of natural resources. But by planting trees and changing the way they farm, the inhabitants of the tiny island of Kokota have witnessed impressive results.
Nowadays, it's difficult to make your way through the dense woodland in Kokota. 10 years ago, this land used to be barren. Activist Mbaruk Musa Omar and his NGO have brought it back to life. The organisation encourages local communities to plant trees, install solar panels, build fuel-efficient cooking stoves and harvest rainwater. As a result, the Tanzanian island has witnessed a turnaround.
Now the community is very well versed in the issue of tree planting.
Some years ago, the people of Kokota used slash-and-burn farming methods, leading to massive deforestation. Most rivers and the groundwater ran dry. What was once fertile soil turned to dust, and people had to import food. The organisation has planted over 680,000 fruit trees and forest trees in Kokota. To make sure that the reforestation is successful, local communities regulate felling. Among the people benefiting are beekeepers. The trees provide bees with a well-protected and shady dwelling place and a source of food when they're flowering. 2 years ago, Salum Kasim had just 2 beehives. Now he has 75.
I can't do anything without the forests. When you hang the hives like we've done here, we get best quality honey. It's clean, and the bees can't be attacked by other insects.
Kokota is now on the road to recovery. But the islet of Njau, just a couple of kilometres away, is still in dire straits. Like Kokota in the past, Njau has no clean drinking water, and the land is degraded. This tree planting event is designed to help the islanders understand the importance of trees.
We encourage them and help them in planting as well. Then, when the rains come, we work together with the communities when we visit them and plant trees in their areas for the purpose of ongoing conservation.
The organisation's activities are funded by the European Union. The aim is to enable communities to become self-sufficient by means of agribusiness.
And that hopeful look into the future brings us to the end of this edition of Echo Africa. I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget, you can always check in with us anytime on social media. I am Chris Lems, signing off from Lagos, Nigeria.
Thank you, Chris. It is also time for me to say farewell. But do be sure to tune in again next week. Until then, it is a goodbye from me, Sandra Twinovideo, here in Kampala, Uganda.